Hi, Danny.
How are you guys doing?
Not bad. How you doing?
Fighting the fight every day, winning more than I'm losing.
Sounds good. Hi, Diana. All right, we're at 5:35 now. We got a pretty good group. A lot of CAG members here. Let's see what guys are CAG members actually. So let's get started. I have the agenda scrolling here. We're going to start with just some introductions like we usually do. And then we're going to get into our San Antonio evaluation. Then we'll talk a little bit about Quick Strike. And then McLaughlin will be the last topic of the day. So I'm going to get rid of this so we can see better. Okay. So I think most of you know me. I'm Pete Rice. I'm a transportation planner with the Department of Transportation, and I am the project manager for Movimiento, and I run the Movimiento Community Advisory Group. I'm going to go around and have city staff introduce themselves first, and then we'll have the CAG members who are here introduce themselves. So let's start with Wilson.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me well? Good evening. This is Wilson Tam, and I am the Transportation Planning Manager at DOT, and very happy to see you all tonight. I'm passing on to, go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, I was just going to call on people that are, as they appear on my screen. So Natasha is up next.
Hi, everybody. My name is Natasha Opfeld, and I lead our area-specific multimodal transportation improvement plans group. And Movimiento is one of those projects. So I'm happy to be here, and thanks, Pete, for hosting.
All right, Nick.
Hey everybody, this is Nick Fry. I have the pleasure of working with these fine folks at DOT, and I'm a transportation planner. I'll also be monitoring the chat tonight, so please feel free to drop comments or questions in there, and I'll make sure that we get them addressed. Thank you.
All right, let's go to the CAG members now. We have Danny Garza first on the list.
Hi, everybody. Danny Garza. Plata Arroyo.
Thanks, Danny. Guadalupe is next.
Hi, Guadalupe, President of the Mayfair Neighborhood Association and Chair for the Board of Directors at Mayfair Neighborhood Advisory Council, Mayfair NAC.
All right, thank you, Guadalupe. And if you're not talking, please put yourself on mute. So we have Alan next, Alan Williams.
Hi, Alan Williams, Negley Park, working in the transit committee for Negley Park.
All right, welcome, Alan. Matt Carnes, you're next.
Hello, yes, I'm Matt Carnes and I live in Mayfair.
All right, thanks, Matt. Joan, you're up next.
Hi, Joan Rivas Cosby from the Olinder neighborhood, very interested in the East Side multimodal projects.
Thanks, Joan. Then we have Manny.
Hi, all. Manny, D7, president to 501c Cultural Active Transportation Line San Jose, Cat Line SJ. Hey.
All right, thanks, man. Thanks, Manny. And then we have Diana.
Hello, Diana Crimity here, Silicon Valley Bikes Coalition, Santa Clara County Advocate. Here to support East Side resident 95122.
All right, thank you. And then I think the last one is David Vieira. Hi, David.
Hi, I'm David Vieira from the BART Transit Village Advocates and the Friends of the Five Wounds Trail.
All right, thanks, David. And we actually only have a few more people if you know, we want to get to know everyone here. So why don't we just, looks like Daniela, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Daniela. I'm also with the Silicon Valley Bike Coalition. Thank you for letting me crash your meeting.
Yeah, thanks for coming. And then Roberto.
Hey everyone, Roberto here with the D5 office.
Roberto, thank you. Caitlin, you're up. That's right, I remember you were having some mic issues last time. Please provide comments in the chat if your mic's not working. I know you have a lot to add. I think that's it for introduction. So let's dive in. We got first up on the agenda is our San Antonio evaluation. Okay, does everyone see the PowerPoint? Cool. Okay. There we go. So I just want to note right off the bat a few things about our evaluation of this project. This is our first evaluation, okay, and there will be more in the future. 1 year is a relatively short time frame in the life of a transportation project. Roadway users often need some time to adjust to changes, and even just having new asphalt down on the roadway can affect driver behavior. And so with some of the data that we're looking at, they're pretty small sample sizes, and so we want to be careful not to make too much of it. In this initial evaluation, we're mostly looking for any big problems that need attention quickly, what I refer to here as major red flags. I'm happy to say we haven't seen any, but in addition to the red flags, we're also looking to see whether we've made progress towards achieving our goals for the corridor and whether there are near-term changes we can make to improve the project. So the primary goal for San Antonio is to make it an all ages and abilities bike connection between downtown San Jose and East San Jose. And this has been the direction for San Antonio since the adoption of the general plan some 10 plus years ago. Now, this doesn't mean that the other east-west routes that cross 101 don't need bike lanes or can't be good routes. It's just a goal for San Antonio. In creating a safe route, a safe and inviting route on San Antonio, it will help us achieve our mode shift goals and our climate goals. It will allow community members greater travel options. Some people will be able to do without a car. We're very car dependent here, and that car dependency means that transportation is the second largest expense for families in San Jose after housing. Better bike infrastructure improves access and mobility for people who can't drive. And it also provides opportunities for recreation, which means increased health and well-being. So with that said, let's dig into the evaluation now. So these are the 5 data sources that we looked at for this evaluation. For community feedback, as you all know, we've discussed San Antonio at several previous meetings. I've received a number of emails, some directly to me, some forwarded from the council offices. And we also put out a survey last fall that I hope you all took the time to fill out. For speed and volume data, we worked with a traffic data collection firm to go out and put tubes down and to collect the speed and volume data. They also use radar guns at certain points. For the collision data, we worked with the police department. This is something we as part of our normal process at DOT, and we maintain a database of collision reports. And then DOT observations. We had DOT staff out on the corridor many times over the last year. We walked the corridor, we rode the corridor, and we drove it as well. And so our experiences informed this evaluation. So I want to focus our evaluation results primarily on two segments, one on each side of King Road. First, the traffic circles to the west, and then the protected bike lanes to the east. These are the two elements of the project that we heard the most about from the community. So traffic circles, as you all know, we removed stop signs at 19th and 21st, and we added traffic circles at 19th, 21st, and 23rd. The idea was to create a slow, safe street that would allow people who bike to feel comfortable and to ride without stopping. The traffic circles in general have been shown to reduce dangerous collision types, including head-on crashes and T-bone crashes. Now, the feedback we received here was mixed. On this slide, I'm showing mostly the good news. First, the majority of bikers surveyed said they felt safer riding on this segment since the installation of the project. Also, the majority of survey respondents, so not just bikers, but everyone who took the survey, said they support or strongly support the project on this segment. The speeds remain below 25 miles per hour despite removing two stop signs. On average, we had fewer crashes between 17th and 24th Streets, and we had no injury crashes at the intersections with the traffic circles. And one thing I want to explain here is that nearly all the crash data we looked at showed a reduction in crashes, but the sample sizes are really low, and we have to be careful not to make too much of it. So for example, we had no KSI crashes between King Road and Jackson Ave. KSI means the crash resulted in death or serious injury. But if we had had just one KSI crash on that segment, our table would have shown a 150% increase. So that gives you an idea of just how small the sample sizes that we're talking about here, and why although the crash data doesn't raise any red flags at this point, we don't want to make too much of it. And we're going to continue to monitor the corridor and update our tables as more time passes. All that said, we do think there are ways that we can improve the traffic circles. So our recommendation for the traffic circles is to change out the quick build materials for hardscape. This should have a greater calming effect and force vehicles to slow more than they have been. You can see the concrete curbs as shown on the right here. They would replace the paint and ceramic domes that are out there today. I actually drove this around this traffic circle on the right last week, and I can tell you that I definitely felt the need to slow down more than when I have driven on San Antonio. So I'd like to pause now. I see Manny has his hand up, and open it up for questions and comments about this segment of San Antonio and our proposed recommendations, and then we'll move on to the eastern portion.
Yeah, I just want to say, I responded last. Can I get my face mask? You got the phone? I responded last meeting with suggesting art, and I actually walked by and chalked up some art within the three circles, and they came out really nice. The community really enjoyed it. They told us they wanted more, and I also chalked up sidewalks on a following Saturday, put some like wayfinding, so many miles to the Guadalupe River, so many miles to the Alum Rock Trail. And one particular piece was just a simple chalked up snail that my colleague Lyden George chalked up. And immediately a mother and son and daughter were walking to the bus stop. And once they hit the corner, the little boy especially never left the snail alone. Just grabbed his attention, and the mom was able to just sit down and not worry about what the kids are going to be running around or fighting or anything like that. So just a little simple art fixtures along the sidewalks and bus stops really do make a little difference with the activeness for the community.
Absolutely, I definitely hear what you're saying. That is one of the benefits of the hardscape is that it potentially could allow us to do more landscaping or perhaps some artwork. I can't make any promises on that front. Our team has been pushing that within the DOT, but there are issues with maintenance costs and liability. So it's something we're very much interested in and working towards, but I can't give you a good answer on that one yet. But thanks, I appreciate your comment, Manny. I see Guadalupe is next on my screen with her hand up.
Okay, hi, Peter.
Hi.
You mentioned that you don't have no red flags about San Antonio. So
Yes.
I think that is not true because we've been raising a lot of questions to you. We've been sending emails. We also have a walkthrough the San Antonio Street to show you the problems we have with the design you put it for the pedestrian and the bicycles. So this is creating a really hard issue for our neighborhood because when you try to get out from preservation out to San Antonio, you have to go more than middle of the street in order to see if there's cars coming. So that causes a lot of accidents. That's another thing you said you don't have no collision data. I don't know why, because if I know it, it's been at least something between 10 to 20 collisions there. The other problem is the getting outside from the Grail Family Services over there to San Antonio. And also there is a complex next to that. I don't remember the name of the complex. Like the people over there, they've been having a hard time to get out because of this new design of San Antonio Street. So this is not working for us. We live here. We are the ones using it. And
I absolutely hear what you're saying, Guadalupe. When I say there are no major red flags, I'm talking about we have not seen a huge increase in speed or collisions or something like that. I understand, believe me, I know that you have issues with visibility, and we're going to get to that side of the corridor after we discuss the traffic circles. What I consider a major red flag would be something like much faster vehicles or many more collisions, a dramatic increase in KSIs, that kind of thing. So that's all I meant by that.
Okay.
I didn't mean that it's a perfect project and that we don't need to change anything.
okay, then it's a second question I have for you. You said when you walk the corridor, you walk it several times. I want to know when you did it because us, the community, were not informed. The neighborhood association in the Mayfair area was not informed. The Mayfair NAC was not informed. And I think these kind of things, the community need to know what is going to be and what is happening. And it's not happening, Peter. I don't know why the communication is not both ways.
Yeah.
Peter, sorry.
I was just gonna say this, when we visited the corridor, it wasn't always a public event. Okay, sometimes it was just me going out there by myself and experiencing it as, you know, a user of the roadway and using the various modes. We did organize that walk audit at your request, and I thought that was a really good exercise. And I think that we should be doing more of that in the future for sure. But it's not like we were out there with other groups and we just didn't invite your group or something like that. Natasha, you're going to say something?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to add that it's a standard procedure for DOT staff to go out and do site visits multiple times to see a project. Different staff will go at different times. I've been walking it and biking it at nighttime, you know, talking to transit users on the corridor. Like we're visiting all of our project spaces as often as we can. And those are just during, you know, our work hours, not with members of the public. If, you know, when they invite us or when we have walk audits, we definitely try to market it. And that's when, you know, the one that we did with you for the segment you were interested in. But if you're interested in walking it again, we're completely open to doing that with you. Even driving it, you know, whatever you'd like.
All right, Joan, you're next on my screen.
First of all, I would like to thank Manny. I have seen the wayfinding chalk art totally brighten my day, and I had been intensely curious as to who had the creativity and the initiative to do that. So Manny, thank you and your friends for doing that. It's been wonderful. I'd like to reiterate what Guadalupe had said about with the traffic circles, ensuring that somebody has to really creep out halfway into the intersection so that you can see. I understand that your data is showing that this hasn't had a really negative impact, but what I fear is that the near accidents that don't happen, but that scare the bejesus out of you when you're one of the participants is something that's not reflected in that. Because depending on the visibility, and I know at another meeting, someone had recommended longer red spaces on the curb, so that would increase visibility. And I don't know where that's going, but I think that would be helpful. But to end on a positive note, I believe the changes or the adaptations that you're talking about for the existing traffic circles on San Antonio would truly be helpful, because I was shocked when I saw the bullet point that said speeds were not going higher than 25. The D3 CLC actually has a radar gun that I'm planning to ask to borrow and station myself on the corner of 19th and East San Antonio for a while, because just visibly, and I do know that when you're on the street, it's hard to judge the speed of a car. But how are you getting the data of how fast they're going? I don't see any of those, you know, the monitors, they're going across the street that, well, okay, so I guess some of those are traffic counters, but if there's two, then that gives you an indication of the speed, right? Depending on how fast they hit the two. So where are we getting the data about the speed?
Yeah, I can elaborate on that a little bit. And my slide was a little vague. So when we do this, the speed and volume counts, we lay tubes across the street, like you were saying. And the speed I mentioned, it doesn't mean that nobody is going over 25 miles per hour. We use 85th percentile speed. And so that means that 85% of the cars on San Antonio were below 25 miles per hour. So it doesn't mean that there aren't people that are driving super fast. There are always outliers, and that's more difficult to deal with. Wilson, I don't know if you want to explain more about the tube counts at all. Do you understand what I'm saying, Joan, about tubes? You lay them out, however fast the car goes over, how many cars. That's how we get the speed and volume data. And we use a firm that specializes in doing that kind of work.
Yeah, and I just wanted to quickly elaborate that we did multiple sample sets. So we did one with we have data that we're able to access that's just big data purchases that's collected from like Google Maps users, Waze users, and other monitoring that gets, it's anonymous, but you know, those companies report out to us. Then we did tube counts to double check that data, you know, saw where the differences were and averaged those out when needed. And then we also did, because you can't put tubes in the actual intersection, we had a day where we sent out people with the radar guns that you're saying, Joan, to get people actually going through the intersection. So we had various points along the corridor that we looked at all those variables. And they're out for like a week or two at a time.
Matt, I see your hand up. You're next on my screen.
Thank you. I like the idea of the improvements to the traffic circle. I'm curious about this. I'm a driver. I don't ride a bicycle. And so I like it just because it keeps people from running into me when I'm at the intersection. But you mentioned, or the slide said, that bicyclers feel safer when they're in the traffic circle. I'm curious to know, why is that?
We didn't elaborate in the, you know, it was a response to a survey question. So we didn't get a lot of elaboration from people on that. I did mention that traffic circles are good at preventing certain kinds of crashes. You know, if you're riding through an intersection, you're likely not going to get T-boned. Someone's not going to swerve and hit you head on. But yeah, it's a good question. We did ask things like, what do you like about them and that kind of thing, that I could share some of that data, but I would have to look back at the results. I don't have it off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Caitlin?
Hey, Pete, it looks like Caitlin put her comment in the chat. We actually have a few points in the chat, so why don't we run through those? And
Sure.
Caitlin, I will get to yours in just one quick second. Starting off, Alan mentioned that he was in Palm Springs and saw Hardscape, and thought that was a good way to prevent people from running over these features, especially Hardscape roundabouts. And then Danny, I see that you mentioned that the roundabouts on Younger between 1st and 7th, you like those, so thank you for that. Manny, thank you. You dropped in a link to the photos of that great chalk art.
Nice.
And also, Danny, I don't know if you want to elaborate, but you were mentioning that on our walk audit, we were only able to get through one block on our time allotted. So again, as Natasha mentioned, we're really happy to reschedule with folks to do that again. We had some great feedback from you guys, so based on that, we wanted to make sure that we had a thorough discussion about basically the area that we were. So unfortunately, in our time, we were only able to get that far down the corridor. And Joan mentioned not seeing the tubes on San Antonio Street. They can be hard to see. We can get the precise locations for you and get back to you on that if you'd like. And Caitlin wanted to mention that she's surprised about the speeds currently being below 25% or 25 miles an hour for 80% of drivers. And that it's that there's perception that people are driving faster, and that the current traffic circles seem to slow left turns, which is some great feedback, but less effective for slowing drivers going straight. And that's something that I think we can touch on a little bit on this difference between the quick build and what we're proposing with the Hardscape. And then that she's also hopeful that with that Hardscape improvements, that will help slow drivers, whether the radius can be increased or not. And then, oh, and sorry, Alan, let me just clarify. He was saying that the comment about the Hardscape was having a very high curb on it of about 1 foot, which is taller than what we're seeing in the raised curbs here in the Hardscape image, to help slow drivers. So thank you for that comment, Alan, and we'll make sure that our engineers feel comfortable about the curb height going forward. So those are our chat comments, and thank you guys so much for sharing those with us.
Yeah, I would just add that I do tend to agree with Caitlin's assessment about the traffic circles being more effective for left turning traffic rather than the through traffic. Our hope is that it's the combination of this, the bulb out as you're approaching the circle, which right now is just paint and dots or ceramic domes. That will push vehicles towards the center, and then when they get here, this curb will push them out to the right. It's just it's two locations where they have to pay attention, and that's going to cause them to slow down more before going straight through. And I see Matt and David both have their hands up. Let's go to Matt since he's first on my screen, then we'll get to David.
Sorry about that. I didn't realize my hand was up.
Oh, that's from before. No problem, Matt. David, you're up.
Was VTA solicited their bus drivers, for instance, who drive that route to see to ascertain their impressions of the changes?
No, we didn't ask the bus drivers about the changes. We haven't heard any complaints about them, but I think maybe your point is that it's not the best thing. Maybe they should be more effective in slowing down the busters. I'm thinking back to the video you sent me, David.
Well, yeah, I mean, some go fast, but I mean, overall, what's their take on this? Do they like them? Do they not like them? And we know that some aren't being very impacted speed-wise from the video that I shared with you, but I mean, getting input, I think they're pretty key to getting their input as well. I mean, it impacts their jobs.
PTA is someone who we talk to with all of our projects, and they talk more with the bus drivers, and then the planners we talk to, and project managers interface with us. And they've said that they actually really like the traffic circles from a transit operations standpoint. On transit corridors, stop signs can really slow down the bus, especially, when you're thinking a whole corridor, doing 10, 15 plus stop signs can really add up. So being able to go, kind of cruise along at a safe speed, but there is maybe some driver training, or maybe, as Pete was saying, the adjustment period of knowing how to get around them when these changes were first made, was probably tough.
And one thing regarding buses, again, that I actually saw today, one bus actually stopped at San Antonio and 18th, stopped near the bus stop. They didn't have anyone to collect or to drop off, but they stopped because another bus was coming from the opposite direction. And obviously this red bus, BRT or rapid bus, didn't think he or she could pass the other bus comfortably, so actually pulled to the side and let the other bus come through before they resumed on their way. So that's an interesting thing that I saw just this morning on my walk.
Where was that the buses couldn't pass each other?
This bus didn't have anybody to leave off or pick up, and they stopped and didn't continue until the other bus passed it coming in the other direction. And there are cars parked on both sides of the street, which is another hassle for passing buses.
Yeah. Interesting. Thanks, David. Does anyone else have any comments on the traffic circles?
I just put a comment in chat.
Thanks. Some folks were wondering about the fire department and also larger vehicles. And that's a great point. We do check with fire that they can get around these traffic circles. Also, some designs will feature features that are actually mountable by the truck, so they're able to safely drive over them in the space of an emergency. So that's another point there. So long story short, these should not negatively impact fire or police response times.
That does also speak to Alan's question or comment about the really high curbs. They do have to be mountable for emergency vehicles.
And Manny mentioned that he likes the traffic calming of impact of the circles, but just wishes that they could have more of cultural significance and better beautify the community. So thank you, Manny, and art is always a great thing to incorporate.
I agree. Okay, let's move on to the east side of King Road, the protected bike lane portion. So we installed these protected bike lanes between Sunset and Sharf. That's just a subset of the corridor between King and Jackson. This is the other segment where we heard most from the community. Here again, I have some of the good news about this segment. As with the traffic circles, most biker surveys said they felt safer riding here since the project's been installed. And again, most survey respondents said they supported or strongly supported the project on this segment. Speeds fell almost 2 miles per hour in this segment, which it's a pretty big reduction, and it's worth noting, I think, that we saw this reduction in the protected bike lane section, but not in the buffered bike lane section. So I think that shows another reason why protected bike lanes are preferable to buffer. And then with the crash data, again, no red flags here. The injury crashes are down, and we didn't have any KSI crashes. But like I said, these are very small sample sizes, so we're going to have to continue to monitor the crash data and reassess as more data becomes available.
Pete, I just wanted to quickly comment, just Guadalupe asked a question before about, kind of, or maybe it wasn't Guadalupe, but someone else asked where we get our data. We answered that with the 2 counts, but not our crash data. We work with our Vision Zero team, which is a citywide team, devoted to reducing crashes and monitoring crashes. And they have, almost daily reporting from the police department that they receive, as well as hospital data when available. And they're constantly crunching those numbers and in talks with the police. So if it's a fender bender that's not reported to the police, sometimes those can go undercounted, but they're very much focused on ones that are at a level that need to, call in police or things like that.
And Pete, just quickly, Danny asks, where's the circle on Sunset between Sunset and Sharp?
The circle between Sunset and Sharp?
Yes.
Can you explain what you mean, Danny? I'm not sure.
I thought I heard you say that there were circles on San Antonio Street between Sunset and Sharp. That's why I put that in there. So
no.
I could make a mistake. You know what I'm saying? I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed sometimes.
Yeah, no, that's the protected bike lane section between Sunset and Sharp. I might have said circles. I've been talking about circles a lot already, but yes, that's protected bike lane section.
Yeah, I just wanted to get that clear. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so the most common complaint, as you guys have mentioned already, are these concerns about visibility issues in this section. Drivers having difficulty seeing approaching vehicles as they turn onto San Antonio from the driveways and the side streets, as Guadalupe mentioned earlier. This image you see here, this was attached in an email from a resident that was concerned about visibility. So this is something we consider with our designs. There are federal and state guidelines that we follow that recommend daylighting zones around driveways and intersections. So I've pointed out some of them here, the approach to Preservation Drive and Gularte Way, the driveway there. So like I said, this is something we account for in our designs. We have these same daylighting zones on other streets in San Jose where we have protected bike lanes, and we haven't received the same complaints about visibility. And when I drove San Antonio, I pulled into the Gularte Way, and then I pulled back out, and the visibility seemed fine because I could see all the way to the stoplight at Sharp. And so you see it turns red, nobody's coming. All this is just to say that initially the complaints about visibility were a little bit perplexing. But the factor we think that differentiates San Antonio from the other streets with protected bike lanes is the RV parking. RVs are big, and you can see in this picture on the left, this guy has his curtains drawn, so it can be hard to see around them or over them or through them. And so our recommendation to deal with the visibility issues is to relocate the RVs that have been parking here. We understand this is a sensitive issue. There's a housing shortage in California, and especially in the Bay Area, but this is also a safety issue. So we're working with the council office and our homeless outreach team and our housing department on this issue. So again, I'd like to open it up for questions and comments about this.
I'd like to add one comment really quickly, if possible.
Sure.
For the daylighted section at Preservation Drive, based on the walk audit that we've been talking about that we did with Guadalupe, Danny, and some other members of their neighborhood associations, as well as the D5 council office. We went out, observed, took notes. The people that went on it filled out, like a question and answer survey. And we actually extended that daylighting zone by quite a bit, almost doubled it in response to that feedback. So that's just one change we were able to make almost within a month of that. And I just wanted to share that with everybody.
I see Matt as a comment.
I was surprised that there was no information about increased accidents. Since the project was put in, there have been 4 in front of my driveway. I watched one happen, and then on 3 other occasions, I saw the aftermath, the broken glass, a hubcap and a fender laying in the street. I'm guessing those were uninsured drivers who did not want to report it. So I think you need to do a much better job figuring that out. About the intersection at Jackson and San Antonio during rush hour now, when I'm trying to turn right to get to the freeway on-ramp, there's a backup that comes all the way back to my driveway. And where's my driveway? It's at the Grail Center. That used to not be there because the right turn lane now is gone. It's taken up by the bicycle lane. I understand that if somebody is pulled as far over to the left, to the middle lane, middle of the road as possible, there might be room for a small car to get through there, but that doesn't happen. So what's happening now is people are just driving over those little white sticks coming out of the ground, which I love because I hate them. I drive over them. I want to go out with a drill and take them up. I wish you would do that. That's all I have to say.
Thanks, Matt. I think someone has actually done that on at least one of the segments down there. Danny, I see you have your hand up.
I had a question about what the young lady was saying previously, that they had made a correction or something like that. I mean, we only walked 1 block from Packing to Pershing or Preservation. And from what I understand, what I was told is they only removed 1 parking spot. Is that what we're talking about?
Danny, I can speak to that. Yes. For the walk audit, we did only go 1 block. My notes and my recollection was that Guadalupe requested that we not walk as far. We had planned to go all the way to King that day, but she was not feeling like walking that far. It was also really hot, totally understandable. So we focused around her major area, which was the Preservation Drive. And we did increase that daylight zone by, I would say, a parking spot for us. I think there was 15 feet. I don't have, again, that, number right off the top of my head, but we did increase it quite a bit. I think more than doubled it than what it was in response to your concerns and the community's concerns. And that's something that we were looking at for every single segment, and something that our engineers are continuing to look at. Because again, this is not the only place where we have these measurements and these recommendations across the city. We're having these same measurements, nothing's happening. So that's why the RVs are the variable that we're looking at, and working with the council office to kind of figure out what we can do there. Because that's the kind of outlying variable that is causing a lot of, like, as you can see in the photos, you can't see, there's like very bad visibility.
Yeah. And I'm just concerned that we're hearing that things on San Antonio are being addressed, but of course, we didn't get to go from Guadalupe's area all the way to the bridge.
And that's why we're continuing to do this evaluation. So Pete has data on all of, near the bridge where we're seeing speeding increases and things like that. And from 20, or Pete will speak to that later. He has some info about that, but for the rest of the corridor, this is
spoiling my presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Danny. Guadalupe, you're next.
Yes, I have a question. When we have this walkthrough, you're right. I said it like, I don't want to walk. I want to stay or go to my car and then follow you guys if you want to keep walking. And that was fine with me because I know it was another community members there, like they know exactly what we're going through. But then the group decided like, no, that's good. Only one, we see it enough. And what we requested at that time is to remove all the parking spots from preservation to the end of the creek, or where the creek was going to start on that side, to alleviate the problems we have with visibility. Because if there is parking spots there, the RVs, they're always going to be there. That's for sure. And then across the street, we said it like, maybe on that side, it will work if we remove 1 or 2 stalls to help with the visibility. But after that, and the studies and all the things you did with the DOT, you decided against what we requested, like it was only 1 parking spot to be removed. And I don't understand why it's too hard for the DOT or for the city of San Jose or for the ones that have this great plan to recognize it's wrong. It's not helping the community. It's making a lot of troubles for the community. For the ones who will live here, it's too easy to sit down in your desk and see the plans and see the blueprints and all you have, but you actually are not experiencing what we're going through every single day here in our neighborhood.
Guadalupe, thank you for sharing that. I definitely, just thank you for sharing how you feel. We did pass on the feedback that you and some of the members that were there were fine with eliminating and recommended eliminating parking for a whole block. But when we have done work with the church and with Grail Family Services and other community members have said, do not take away the parking, including the council office. So we, part of our job is to take all of this input and then really weigh the trade-offs with the safety. And that's why we're iterating on this. Increasing that daylit zone was only the first step, and we're constantly reevaluating the full parking removal, especially because of the church and the food vendors and stuff. Parking is very key on this corridor. And we look to the people that live in this area, that use this area, travel through this area to tell us, and we're hearing lots of different things. So we have to weigh that, and it is really difficult to kind of navigate that, and we're doing our best, and we can always be doing better. But we hear take the parking away, we hear don't take parking away. We settled on taking a little bit away, and we'll keep assessing that.
I see Caitlin has her hand raised. Did you add a comment to the chat, or are you?
Can you hear me today?
Yeah, you sound great.
Great. Okay. My one comment is, especially looking at the slide and thinking about the RV parking, relocating the RVs is a good temporary solution, but obviously isn't necessarily long-term. Is there an option to consider posting signage for no parking over 7 foot at locations such as this?
Yeah, I think that's what we do. If we just ask them to leave, other people would park there with these oversized vehicles. We haven't, finalized exactly what our approach is going to be. But I think we'd have to include some sort of limit on the size of the vehicles that could park there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Pete, I just want to mention, Alan has another good point here in the chat, saying that he sees cars and trucks from the side street not stopping for the bike lane, but instead progressing through to see the car travel lane, and would like to see them stopping at the bike lane and then proceeding to that second stop for the travel lane. Danny, thank you also for your comments again about the length of our walk audit, and also just expressing that again, we are, planners, and we're not necessarily living in the East Side community. We do understand that, and we just want to try to do our best to balance the needs of the entire community. And part of doing that is the great feedback and the time you guys are willing to put in to work with us to try and find a solution. So thank you.
I appreciate everything you do, and anytime you're available, I'm available.
All right.
And sorry, just quickly as a quick note, we will save all these chat comments, but since we are running kind of low on time, I'm just going to go ahead and just read the questions that folks have rather than all of the comments as well. So thank you.
All right, I do have oh wait, there's one more segment where we were recommending a change. So let's go to that now. This is the other segment that we're recommending a change. It's not one that we heard a ton about from the community, but between 101 and King Road, Danny was mentioning it a minute ago. This is the place where we had initially proposed a traffic circle for the 34th Street intersection. However, engineers, they determined that it wouldn't work there. Something about it's a T intersection with a private driveway. We couldn't get it done. And at that point, it was too late in the design process to switch gears to something else. And the speed data we collected here shows that this segment is faster than we would like for a shared lane. So the proposed change here is to do some traffic calming on this stretch between King and the 101 overcrossing and get cars to slow down. We haven't decided what treatment is appropriate yet. If we were to do speed humps, we would follow our typical petition process. Does anyone have a comment here? I feel like this part is not as interesting as the other two segments, as many opinions.
Hey, Pete, I always like bulb outs with plants, man. That's beautiful traffic calming, baby.
All right. Matt, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I'm always in favor of speed humps.
Okay, great. Yeah, and just if you're not familiar with our petition process, the way it works is you have to get 50% plus one of the residents on a block to approve the addition of speed humps, and then you have to get homeowners on either side of the street to approve the location directly in front of their house. So it can take some time to get it done, but that's the petition process that we have right now. All right, so just to wrap up the evaluation. So again, I just want to emphasize that this is just the beginning, okay? And Movimiento is a 20-year planning horizon. We've already accomplished a lot through our quick build efforts, but we all recognize there's plenty of more work to be done, and we look forward to working with you all on that. I know some of you are probably a little dissatisfied with the current state of the corridor. But again, we didn't find any major problems with the roadway that would require a full-on redesign. But there are changes that we want to make to the corridor to make it safer, which are harden the traffic circles, relocate the RVs, and limit the oversized parking, and do some traffic calming. I see a bunch of hands popping up. Guadalupe, you're first.
Yeah. Yes. Peter, you don't talk about the intersection of San Antonio and King Road, because it's exactly the same situation like Matt described it before. There's only 2 lanes. You have the one you can turn left, and then the one you can go straight or turn right. And I'm seeing it several times when I'm driving and I'm parking there, waiting for my turn. Like the people on the left side, they just go across in front of the cars and they go right, they turn right. So that change over there, oh my God, it's not working too. So I don't know who has that brilliant idea, like install that on San Antonio and King Road, because it's not working. And there has been accidents there, like really bad accidents. I don't know why your data is not showing that, but something has to be done in there because the way it's designed right now is not working.
King Road in San Antonio, it was part of this project, but it's handled by a different department because King Road is one of the most dangerous streets in San Jose when it comes to traffic crashes. Almost every intersection on King Road between Berryessa, I want to say even higher when it turns into Lundy, all the way to Capitol Expressway, has a flabbergasting amount of crashes. These improvements were done to help mitigate some of the most dangerous crashes, especially because the most deadly ones are with pedestrians, you know, cars turning right and hitting people crossing the street. So the protected intersection that was built was done to shorten crossing distance, to slow cars down turning. There are a lot of bad drivers in San Jose, so I'm sorry that you're seeing, you know, people doing illegal and frankly, you know, erratic driving behavior. That is something that we are constantly monitoring, and that our local projects team, the one that does, you know, those bigger intersections like King Road, they are recording the data. That wasn't part of Pete's analysis, but we can talk about that next CAT. We can maybe bring them to talk to you about it. Yeah, King Road is a very, very tough street.
Yeah, that's it. That's a great idea, having them in next time to discuss that intersection. And Natasha is also leading a plan for King Road in the coming year. I see David has his hand raised.
Yeah, the no parking vehicles over 6 feet tall can be effective if it's enforced. We have one block here on 28th with that signage. However, it's never enforced. We had a motorhome parked there for at least 10 days. It moved along today only because I mentioned it to our area captain in SJPD, and not because it was parked there, but rather because of the activities in which they were participating or actually promoting from that motorhome. So the officers today, I don't know what they said to them, but they are now over on 26th Street near Santa Clara. But it's, you know, signage for that, no parking over 6 feet tall. It's great when it's enforced. And with my experience with parking compliance, reporting a lot of vehicles, not RVs, but commercial trucks parked on that segment of 28th Street. Parking compliance rarely, if ever, comes out to do enforcement, even when they're called out to do it.
Thanks, David. Yeah, I hear you on that. You know, we like to say that good design means you don't have to have much enforcement. There were people throwing around ideas about, is there a way we can design the parking spots so that RVs couldn't park in them, maybe limiting the length of them or something like that. But you know, we haven't figured that out yet, but I definitely hear what you're saying. Joan?
So all I wanted to ask was about the evaluation process going forward. Early on in the presentation, you did say that this was a fairly short amount of time for the evaluation. But I just wanted to clarify that there are ongoing plans to continually monitor not only the stretch that I'm talking about, but also further down to Jackson, only because pretty much, unless I'm going on to Capitol, Jackson is pretty much as far as I go. But as so many people have mentioned here, there's a lot of issues that I see as just somebody driving by. And so I'd just like to hear about what the plan is to continue with the evaluation and gathering of data.
Sure, yeah. Like I was saying, this is not a one and done thing. We're going to continue to gather the data. We don't have, you know, a schedule of dates where we're going to send people out there yet, or when we're going to collect, we're going to gather the collision data again. right now we have 8 months of collision data in the post-project period. And part of that is because there's a delay between when the police have a report and when we get it and process it through our system. But at the very earliest, we would want at least 1 year of data and probably more than that, I would say. I don't know, Natasha, do you have anything to add or?
Yeah, our head engineer, so we work directly with the engineering team to, that we bring in all the feedback that we're hearing from you, the site visits, the initial designs, and then we talk with our engineers, some of which were on the walk audit that we did with Danny and Guadalupe. And they start to take that data, really parse through and see exactly what types of crashes, if there are any, exactly what type of speeding, what type of turning movements, and then they start tweaking the designs. They're saying that 1 year can give us some information, but their ideal metrics are 3 years to 5 years to really get the widest recommendations and the most impactful recommendations. So these minor things, I don't want to call them minor because I think they're pretty cool, but hardening the traffic circles, adding the bulb outs, ideally with plants or art, those types of things we can do in response to 1 year. But things like Guadalupe was saying, well, why can't we remove the protected bike lane? All the data that we have right now is saying that it's making it safer. So when we look at years 3, years 5, we'll have much more crash data, information if there is any, the speeding data, the bike counts that we haven't been able to do because of COVID. It's still COVID time, so where the traffic data that we're getting is still kind of an anomaly. So there's all these factors going in, but the pulse check happens once a year, but then the kind of bird's eye view when we can really assess and make major recommendations, our engineer has said 3 years to 5 years.
Guadalupe, you have your hand up?
Yes, I just have a comment to what Natasha said. You said this data, it makes safer for the people. For who? Obviously, it's not for us, the residents living in there. And I was one time myself with another of the community members standing there in San Antonio, on the corner of San Antonio and Sharp, and we were counting how many bicycles they go through the line. We count 2 in 4 hours. And that was the hours, the pico time, from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock. Okay, and it was unbelievable. Only 2 people in bicycles went through that line. So when I'm asking again, this is safer for who? Obviously, it's not for us, the residents living in there. So for who?
Guadalupe, thank you for sharing your experience. We work directly with organizations such as the Bike Coalition, East Side specific bike organizations, people like Justin Triano and others. And I can't go through the long list of names we have of people that have requested protected bike lanes on San Antonio specifically and throughout the East Side, because they do improve the cyclist experience. We want to make cyclists safer because they are more likely than drivers to die by being hit by a car, and protected bike lanes are the best possible solution to protect them from those types of crashes. So that's who we're talking about, safer for cyclists, and they do improve pedestrian safety as well a lot of the time. And I know that, it's kind of hard, especially for cyclists, right, to see them sometimes, but we do have data, both qualitative and quantitative, that there are cyclists, and we want to get more cyclists by providing safer conditions, because I've been hit by a car on my bike. That kept me off my bike for 3 years till I got brave enough to go out again, and my routes are only on places where I feel safe. And San Antonio is a place where when I ride and try to connect to Jackson, which doesn't have a protected bike lane, I feel like I'm going to get run over all the time. And also in East San Jose, we see a lot of people riding on the sidewalk because they don't feel comfortable, in the road at all. So we're trying to curb, again, like Pete said, this is a 20-year plan. We're trying to fix immediate safety needs, and then also change behavior and change, you know, for the future, for 20 years from now. Danny, you mentioned that I'm not making sense. Is there anything I can clarify on?
So here's the thing, you're talking about protected bike lanes, but that whole San Antonio Street east of King is inside and outside. So what are you talking about?
Yeah, so there's different, San Antonio is a pretty interesting street for us because it ranges so much. That's why we have all these different sections. We have the traffic circle section, the super narrow section before the bridge itself, which is partially protected. And then we have the fully parking protected bike section that is, you know, by the church all the way to Jackson. There are very different. So I'm talking about the parking protected bike lane section.
I understand what you're talking about, but you're talking about two different things on the same street, and you cannot have that. That doesn't make sense. Either you put all the bike lanes inside the parking or outside, because you cannot have it both ways.
And that's something that we'll definitely look at, and that we are working with cyclists in the area to see, you know, what is their preferred option and what is causing the most amount of compliance.
See, the cyclists don't live here. They're not.
I can speak to that a little bit.
Okay.
You know, when we did in Movimiento, like Natasha was saying earlier, we heard loud and clear that parking is in high demand on San Antonio. And those other segments of San Antonio between King and between Sunset and Sharps to Jackson, they have more residential driveways. And to try to install a parking protected bike lane where you have so many residential driveways, those daylighting zones that I said that are required, that would mean we'd get rid of virtually all of the street parking. And that is something that we heard loud and clear not to do. Despite what Guadalupe is saying here tonight, when we were doing the plan, they said not to do that. And so what we ended up with was a compromise, okay? Between King and Sunset, we expanded the buffers, but didn't remove the parking. And then we're in the middle segment where we didn't have a lot of driveways, that's where we did the parking protected bike lanes. So that's why it switches back and forth. There was, you know, we could have removed all the parking in those other segments and done protected bike lanes for the whole stretch. There were definitely some people in the department that were pushing for that. But we thought it best to at least get the protected bike lanes where we could, but also honor the wishes of the community and preserve the parking on the other segments.
I totally understand, but you know what? If you would have put all the parking outside, you would have protected the bikes anyway. You see what I'm saying? I mean, the pretty white little cones are not as effective as cars parking out there. And I totally understand that people don't want to lose that parking. You know, but it's, you know, I have photos that I'm going to bring Saturday. Well, I have my phone, and it's just confusing. You start out at King Road and the bike lane is on the curb. You get over, going east, it's outside the cars. Farther east, it's on the curb. Farther east, it's outside the cars. I mean, what kind of sense is that? Who wasted our tax dollars on that?
Thanks, Danny. Matt, you've had your hand up for a while there.
Yes, I want to reply to what Natasha said. First, about the lack of data on accidents. I just told you there've been 4 outside, just right in front of my driveway, since the project was put in. So there's 4. The second thing is I don't care about the safety of bicyclists. There are no bicyclists. What they can do is they can do what they do in Willow Glen. They can ride on the sidewalk. We don't need them on the street. They can be on the sidewalk. It's good enough for Willow Glen. That's good enough here.
Matt, thank you for sharing that. The city of San Jose, unfortunately, very much cares about the safety of cyclists, and we cannot turn, you know, a blind eye to their needs. And, you know, it is legal in San Jose to ride on the sidewalk, but again, protecting all users, pedestrians, and there's different accessibility needs of people riding on the sidewalk. we want them to be able to ride in the street. It's legal for them to
We
do
don't
so.
have pedestrians on my street either.
That might be a feeling and an
Time
experience,
out.
but we
I'm
hear
picking up
them.
is that you don't come out and actually experience the neighborhood. You sit in your offices and you draw up plans. You look at engineering reports and you draw up plans.
I will.
Matt, or
when we
Pete,
did
Pete, can I just finish my thought?
Yeah.
We interact with many people that live on this street, that do ride bikes, that do walk. There are some here today.
Sounds to me like
in
talking
this,
to the bicycle advocates.
some of those bicycle advocates do live in East San Jose. Again, we have CAG members, Justin Triano, Manny Jacobo, he says that he's busy, but he also rides bikes. Alan, like they're not here today. And I just want to bring their voices up because they're getting hit, they're getting killed in East San Jose. They do exist.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that, we did look at mode share data when we did the Movimiento plan, and the rates of biking and walking in the Movimiento planning area, which includes San Antonio, obviously, is double that of citywide. So there are people biking and walking in East San Jose more than on average in the city. Still not where we want, those rates to be, but there definitely are bikers and walkers in East San Jose. Joan, I see you have your hand up.
Well, I just like to say I'm only one person on the CAG, but I'd like to reiterate to people who are feeling so passionately that these folks are just trying to do their job, and they're encouraging us to give our input. But I think that the frustration that I'm hearing is really not helpful. And I think that as you give your concerns, I do believe they're going to be given weight. And if we could all just continue to respect each other and believe the best in each other, that we'll all be way more productive. I will get off my soapbox now.
Thanks, Joan. I thought I saw, did Caitlin have a comment or question?
I did. I put my hand back down, but since you said my name, I just want to add another community voice to this conversation and say that I do appreciate prioritizing that bike safety in line with the city goals. That's also for me as an individual, a goal. I'd like to bike more safely, or I'd like to feel safe and be able to bike because I don't bike today and I'd like to. So I'm just one single sample of one of the reasons the city is going this direction. And you guys have a tough job balancing a lot of different community priorities and community input. And I've been really satisfied with, obviously not every single viewpoint can be incorporated, but from my vantage point, I've appreciated how you've approached these conversations and balancing all that input that you're receiving from all different sides.
Thanks, Caitlin. Maybe I can pose a question. We are running out of time for the other topics, but I think this is really what everyone wanted to talk about today anyways. It seems like some of you are not satisfied with the idea to just remove the RVs. And I'm wondering, in your opinions, if you don't mind sharing, what do you think is making San Antonio's protected bike lanes different from the other streets? Like I said, we have these daylighting zones on 3rd Street and other streets where we have protected bike lanes. And we haven't been receiving the same sort of visibility concerns. We think it's the RVs, but if it's not the RVs, what do you guys think it is? Does anyone want to give us their opinion on that? And also, I see Guadalupe has her hand up. Guadalupe, did you want to add something?
Yes, this is responding to Joan's comment. And you know what? We, the people here representing the Mayfair community, we are the one who has to answer to our neighborhoods. We are the ones who receive the complaints. We are the ones to have to tell them what is happening, what is going on. So it's really hard for us to respond to our community, because when they have problems, when they have issues, they come to us. They don't go and call you, Peter, or they don't go and call Natasha. They call me. They even come to my house and knock my door and let me know what's happening or what's going on. So that's really terrible situation for me, not being able to respond to them. And also about the RVs, what is happening is the RVs, they just move around the block. Now, instead of parking, some of them, instead of parking on San Antonio, they parking on Sunset by the community, the Mayfair Community Garden. So they creating the same problem, just different location. So that's not the solution. The RVs, I don't know, honestly, first, they don't supposed to be there because no one's supposed to be living in an RV. And I understand because of COVID, a lot of things changed, but you know what? We have to think in other people's living around, and that's making the life really poor quality of life with all these RVs around and all these changes, like they don't help us. It's been worse for us.
Thanks, Guadalupe. Matt, did you have a response to my prompt?
I think the RVs are a big problem. I do call the police if they've been sitting there for more than 3 days. I call them. They never come out, or rarely. I think twice in the last 2 years, the police have actually responded to one of my phone calls to come out and deal with an RV that's been sitting there for more than a week. But yeah, I think that'd be a good solution. Get rid of the RVs.
Matt, we can work together. Something that we've been talking about with, I think David was talking about this earlier, compliance, right? It's only as good as you can enforce it. And we can work with our parking control officers and the police department to see if we, when we make these changes and we're able to come to a solution with the council member's office and our housing and homeless departments, to once we make these changes, have some education and enforcement going, to kind of support those changes for a set amount of time, and then, get that increase, because there's so much San Jose and so few parking control officers, but we can work together with them to get them out and active. So we can start doing that right now. So thanks.
Okay, we have 10 minutes left and 2 more projects to cover. Nick, is there anything in the chat that we need to address?
Oh, sorry. Pete, just a recommendation just to respect everyone's time. I know it's dinner time. The 2 items are very important, but we have had public meetings and we can share a lot of the information via email, in order to update folks, or we can add it to the, a separate meeting, but we do want to be respectful of people's time and end at 7.
Thanks, Natasha. I think, the main thing I was going to share about Quick Strike and McLaughlin are that, we're working our way through the design process. McLaughlin, it's pretty much done, but we have the designs posted on the websites for your review. And if you want to send us comments, you can email me. I see, Joan, you have your hand up.
I was just going to say that I was privileged to be on the Zoom where we talked about the McLaughlin projects, and I'm right around the corner and have been walking through there, and I think it's fabulous. So I would encourage everybody to check out the website and see the proposed changes.
Thanks. And Nick, do you think you can, we'll send an email with the links, but also Nick, if you can share the links in the chat, that would be good.
Will do.
Ellen, thanks for all your comments and points in the chat. We are working to increase the sweeping of the bike lanes, but we only have 1 mini sweeper. And right now they're going every 2 weeks. And so we're trying to find budget for more mini sweepers and sweepers in general.
Yeah, there were a few issues that were raised by the community that I didn't mention in the evaluation that I just went over. One is the maintenance of the bike lanes. That's not just a San Antonio problem, that's a citywide problem. And we're aware of it, and we're trying to find some solutions to it. And then I can't remember what else I was going to say there. But we will be publishing the actual evaluation report at some point. Okay, so if we're not going to we don't have a lot of details about the other projects anyways. I think we can end it early unless anyone has any more comments or questions.
I do. Hey, I want to thank you guys for taking the slings and arrows, man. It's you guys have a tough job. The issues are not your fault, but you guys are the ones that have to deal with them. And you guys are doing yeoman work, you know, but the community still has issues with the projects, man. And some of the things you say, you know, we don't agree with. And I'm glad that you guys are handling that disagreement in a really, really professional way.
Thanks, Danny. I really appreciate you saying that. And, you know, we don't think San Antonio is perfect, and we want to continue working on it. I think that's the bottom line with our evaluation. I know it wasn't what everyone wanted to hear today, but you know, we're going to continue to work on it with all of you guys. And I really enjoy working with you guys. So it might seem like we're taking a lot of criticism here and you're being hard on us, but ultimately I really enjoy this group that we've created. All right, with that, we have 6 minutes back. We can go watch the Warriors if anyone is feeling like they want to subject themselves to that. Otherwise, I'll be in touch soon, and have a good evening and a good Cesar Chavez Day tomorrow.
Manny left to head to the actual game, so.
Poor guy.
Hey, don't forget 3 hours with transportation Saturday at the Mexican Heritage Plaza, 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock.
Yes, I won't be there. I believe Natasha is going to be there though. All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
All right. Is everyone gone?